Joining me now is a panel of young people who will share their views on the issues that they are facing in this country. Just to get your view, do you think the government is doing enough to make young people out there employable, or to create employability for young people out there?
Well, I personally feel that the government is not doing enough, because there are people out there that are sitting with degrees, that have law degrees, accounting degrees and whatever, but then the government is not catering for them. Instead, they are being told that they are overqualified. And instead, I personally feel that my president is actually building homes in his hometown, whereas that money can be allocated to people that need the money.
But in essence, in as much as government needs to help young people, we as young people also need to be proactive. I don't know if you can pass the mic down. I mean, how are we as young people sustaining ourselves, or creating a sense of self-sustainability, so that we can meet government halfway to a certain extent?
For me to answer that, I'll say, students from matric and matriculants, they might not know a lot about what's happening in the world. So for the government, it would be helpful for the government to help them understand what's really happening about everything that's happening. Employment, you'd find that matriculants, they come out of school and they know nothing about how to get to work, you understand?
But how are we as young people stepping up and saying, this is what I'm going to do? Maybe start our own businesses. I don't know if you can pass up the mic to that gentleman over there. How are people self-sustaining ourselves?
Yeah, well, I'd simply say, for starters, we're so fortunate to be South Africans. I would say South Africa is already available with so many opportunities, and I think it's a bit unfair for one to expect the other person to make a difference in your life. Here we are, we've made it on our own. It's just that you just need to know what you want, and education is more of a key to what one could achieve. You know what I mean? And I'll just simply say self-empowerment. Just identify the things that you'd like to do as a person, and just go ahead. And I mean, like he has mentioned as well earlier, that Gunabantu that do matric, that go through tertiary, and they can't get jobs, then what happens in that case? You know what I mean? So if you don't have anything to do, or you don't know what you want to do, then that's where the problem is. So as a person, you must be self-motivated and do what you've got.
And lastly, to the lady next to you, I don't know, do you think that the youth leagues of this country represent the views of young people in this country?
I think so. But then at the same time, I think it's not all up to the government or the youth policies or anything. It's all up to the youth, and how actually they put themselves out there, and actually put everything out there and say, I want to do this, I want to do that. You don't have to wait until someone says you're employed. You can create employment yourself. So if we create employment ourselves, we can create even more employment for other people. So
all right.
yeah.
Thank you.
We don't
so
have to
very
complain
much.
about that.
All right. Thank you so very much. Maybe, Stacey, you can pick up from that discussion. It's back to you in studio.
Yeah, I'm loving the thinking that's coming through, because this is a topic that we just had off air. Unemployment, or youth unemployment, is not an issue that affects South Africa. It is a global issue. We're just talking about various countries that have similar statistics to ours. If you've just tuned into the program, thanks again for joining us. We have Andile Lungisa, who is the ANC Youth League Executive Chairperson, in studio with us. Wouter Wessels, who is from the Freedom Front Plus. He's a youth leader there. And Mbali Ntuli, who is the Democratic Alliance Youth Chair. We're talking about the policy conference that's been taking place, how it affects the youth. Do you agree with what the guys have said on the panel, in that it's time for the youth to change their perspective and start taking responsibility maybe for their own lives?
Well, absolutely.
Yes.
I think it's necessary for all the youth in South Africa to be active.
Yeah.
But I want to respond to something Andile said before the break.
Yes, a robust youth debate in studio.
I think it's important that we engage on these issues.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of inequality in South Africa. There's a lot of imbalances, and there's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of rich people, and there's a lot of poor people. But the easiest thing to do, and that is what the ANC Youth League and the ANC does, is they blame it all on white people. And we must let me also be critical and say this. Chase all the white people in South Africa into the sea. Get rid of us today. And you will not solve the problems of South Africa. It is easy maths. 4 million white people, 46 million black people. The unemployed black people will not get employment if all the white people that are employed now leaves the country. And that it sounds very simple, but at the end of the day it's very radical and very easy for the ANC Youth League to blame and give solutions to these problems by making it a racial issue. It is not racial. Poverty does not know race. You have poor white people, you have poor black people. The biggest problem in South Africa is what Thabo Mbeki did, our President Thabo Mbeki did, to say there's two nations in South Africa, rich whites, poor blacks. Because that's generalization and that's always wrong.
Mbali, what do you say about this?
Stacey, before I actually get onto this issue, I want to also go back to a couple of things that Ntuli said. I think, we identify that education and employment are big issues in this country, and Ntuli spoke at length about how we need radical leadership. What I think the youth of South Africa and what those youth in the studio have just basically said to Ntuli is, well, that's fine, but why aren't you being radical about issues that are currently happening right now? Where is the ANC Youth League's voice on the Limpopo textbook crisis? Why are you not holding your own governments to account for that? The NYDA has been established for some time now. We still haven't seen proper tangible solutions about what is actually done, and you're the perfect person to answer about that, actually. These are the issues that we need to actually start properly engaging with. And it's all very well for you just to sit here and be about radicalism and how we need that in leadership, and that's great, but if you can't be radical about the things that are affecting the youth, which are your own government's policy or your own party's policies, then I actually don't see what the ANC Youth League is actually doing.
What about voters, just his comment that he just made now about race? If you had to get rid of all the white people, we'd still have the same issues. Do you agree with him?
Look, I think voter brings up something that's become a norm for the ANC and the ANC Youth League to use, which is the race debate. And I think that Voter is right in that we need to move away from looking at issues in South Africa purely based on a race basis, and we need to start actually engaging on them as they are. And some of them are economic issues, of inequalities, but now that's becoming more of a class thing, actually.
And before you answer, in fact, sorry to break your word there, and I think I need to step in here, because when we talk about radical change, we know that it's someone who favors drastic reform. So we're not saying that's a bad thing. We're questioning how it is then implemented. I'm going to step in from your side as well to say that the only reason that I think the questions are being directed all at you or directly at you at this point in time is because it is the ANC policy conference. So you're best suited to ask these questions, just for anyone wondering if there is a conversation. There really is. You can answer now.
No, I think I must put it very clear. ANC is fighting for non-racial society.
Yeah. But some of the comments, I think, is what is coming through are perhaps had racial tones.
For non-racial society. But the reality where we cannot run away.
Yeah.
Our government from 1994 until today, the money which we've been using is the money which comes from tax, from the national fiscals. From tax, people are paying tax. That's the money which our government has been using when it comes to the issues of service delivery. But the reality, the fact of the matter, that money is not enough. Our government must be able to move with speed to address the issue of youth unemployment in this country. We must have enough resources. In order to have enough resources, that's why all of us have agreed that let's have radical economic policies to be able to change the situation. But the reality, white people, you've got white people in South Africa who can't change that. Black people in South Africa can't change that.
So then why refer to the race?
But white people, they control all the resources. They control the majority of white people in South Africa. They control all the strategic sectors of the economy. And then what we are simply saying as young people in this country, all of us, let's be able to share.
Yeah.
We're not radical. We're just begging. If you've got a loaf of bread, please can you give me half?
I agree that you need to be radical in your
let's
thinking.
Let's be able to share.
Let's
make sure that...
Okay, we have to go to an ad break, unfortunately. We have to go to an ad break. We've got Winnie Khumalo in studio with us. Hopefully we'll be able to move forward with this discussion. We do need to find some sort of a balance and a solution to agree on, but we're going to come back and see if we can find that. As I mentioned, Winnie Khumalo in studio with us. We're celebrating youth and the essence of youth. Passion is what's coming through. It's over to her. I'm ready, like we lose